It's November 9th, 2016, but just barely. It was about 2 a.m. on the morning after the US presidential election. I was sitting in my parents' room. It was completely dark save for the glow of Fox News emanating from the TV. I watched as they gave updates on the current vote count. I'm 15 years old at the time, and I don't exactly understand why we have to wait for some seemingly insignificant states like Pennsylvania to call a winner, but I watch intently all the same. The two selected candidates seem to be the worst possible options available: Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I was scared. If Hillary Clinton wins this election, she'll destroy our country. Sure, Donald Trump isn't a great choice, but at least he's not some lying criminal who cares more about his own interests than those of the country he's leading. One of Fox News' announcers came onto the mic, ready to make a call on the winner. My heart's racing as I hope and pray that we don't end this ordeal in the worst possible way. I lean forward as I wait for whatever life-changing words are about to be said.
And advocates for
we've updated our electoral scorecard.
what is going on? We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen. This candidacy starting...
Oh my god, Trump won. I wake up my parents and let them know the good news. We won! I didn't have to be scared for my life and the future of my country come January 20th. It's August 15th, 2010. My 9th birthday. My family didn't have a lot of money at this time. The previous year we had moved to a new city with no real plans except that God was going to take care of us. My dad was without a job for a full calendar year, and with 6 kids still living at home. Mom and Dad burned through nearly all their life savings. All that to say, I wasn't expecting much for my birthday this year. I knew we'd still do a big birthday dinner and I'd get to play video games all day, you know, the normal birthday fare. But to my surprise, everyone had scrounged together to get me Super Mario Galaxy 2. I was ecstatic. We had owned a Wii for about 2 years at this point, but while the Wii was an awesome console, the games that we had on it were less than the best. And while all these games were fun enough, especially with a few brothers playing split screen, none of them had much beyond the dumb fun aspect of games. But this was a real Nintendo-made game. That's something only the rich kids got to play. I booted it up, and I just knew that this was going to be my favorite game ever. Well, my initial thought had been right, and Mario Galaxy 2 had quickly become my favorite game. The platforming was just perfect, everything was bright, beautiful, and colorful. The game just never stops hitting you with perfect level after perfect level. Even after I finished the game, as I got older and started to watch more in-depth commentary on video games, learning about game design through people like Game Maker's Toolkit or the Geek Critique or Joseph Anderson, and they all seem to affirm this idea that gameplay is the only thing that matters in a game. Everything else is just additional stuff that's alright as long as it doesn't get in the way of the most important thing: gameplay. It's September 13th, 2018, and I'm in health class. The last class of the day. During this class, I hear one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard in my life up to this point. One of my classmates said that there were people on this earth that thought vaccines caused autism. I literally laughed out loud because I didn't believe him. When he confirmed it a second time, I laughed again because the fact that there were people in this world that stupid was hilarious to me. When I went home that day, it was the first thing I told my mom, barely able to contain my laughter as I told her about it. She said, "Why are you laughing at that?"
Oh no!
Well, this wasn't good. I said that it was funny because it's an extremely outlandish claim with literally no evidence to back it up. I don't remember where exactly the conversation went from there, but I remember her having my dad talk to me about it later. Before Dad would get home, I took the liberty of researching a bit, which was kind of a new thing for me. I typically got my information on politics through just listening to what others were talking about at any given time. But now I was being proactive about learning something quote-unquote political. I found the original paper that started the modern movement, and come to find out later that the doctor who made it wasn't even anti-vax. He's just a dude trying to sell his own measles vaccine. He's gone whole hog now and is now a speaker at lots of anti-vax conventions. He was obviously discredited as a doctor long ago. But getting back to the main story, my dad got home and he oh so dutifully informed me that, quote, the Democrats see a world where every person has all 215 vaccinations, unquote. I remember that very specific number he gave, 215. Which is really funny because there's only 92 vaccines licensed for use in the US, at least according to the FDA, and a lot of those are just different vaccine options for, like, the same disease. But beyond the incorrect number, I still don't understand why this was a bad thing. Wanting people to be vaccinated against diseases isn't a bad thing. I don't think people should be forced to get a vaccine, obviously, but if they're not getting vaccinated because of a lie that they're believing, then that's a problem. I think he was trying to get me to agree with him by saying it was the Democrats' agenda, because of course the Democrats are the inherent evil in this world. So if he told me that they wanted people to get vaccinated, then it must be bad. Well, this argument obviously didn't persuade me, but I had said everything that I could, asking him for any evidence why the Democrats wanting people vaccinated was a bad thing, and he kinda just talked his way around each of the questions, so I dropped it. I had homework to do, and this clearly wasn't going anywhere. This was the first step in a journey that I wasn't quite ready to take yet.
Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step.
Thanks. Here's my first step.
It's July 15th, 2016, and I've just bought Mario Galaxy 1 from GameStop. It has one of those, like, GameStop generic cases on it with, like, several pieces broken off of the case. You know what I'm talking about? But, like, that didn't matter because at the end of the day, it still had a disc with Mario Galaxy on it. I brought it home and started playing through it right away. It's like this big, grand adventure and tons of fun. I don't think it was as fun as Mario Galaxy 2, or relied a lot more on the planetary gravity mechanic being fun enough on its own to entertain, which it definitely was. It engaged me all the way to the end. But Galaxy 2 used that gravity in conjunction with amazing platformer level design to make one of my favorite 3D platformers. Not to say Galaxy 1 had bad level design, just that 2 was better. Apparently there's a storybook that Rosalina reads to the Lumas that I could check out too, and so I did. And this is beautiful. It's such a simply told story, and I think that's why it's so effective, and punches you right in the gut with the realization about Rosalina's mom. And man, just look at that atmosphere. Or I guess the lack thereof if you want to be technical, but whatever. That music combined with the openness of space, it's genuinely beautiful. But after finishing it, I told myself that stuff didn't ultimately matter because that stuff wasn't gameplay. So Galaxy 2 is obviously the superior game. And I believed it because that's what all these smart game designer people told me.
No, Mr. President,
You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President,
You're talking about 2 million people.
Mr. President, as the moderator.
It's November 3rd, 2020. Election day again. It seems much calmer this time around. Obviously, the coronavirus is a huge point of discussion among the two candidates, but other than that, it feels like a much more normal election. Nowhere near the fiasco that the 2016 election was. Probably helped by the fact that there was only one radical candidate this time instead of two. I didn't even feel the need to stay up all night and wait for the results, which was good because we didn't know the winner that night anyway. While there was still a lot of yelling and arguably the most unprofessional debate in American presidential history, it felt like less people were as divided as they were previously. Or maybe they were just quieter, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Whatever the case, it felt like a much less stressful experience than the 2016 election, and it was sure to go smoothly from here. Yeah, I feel that. It's September 22nd, 2018. I'm going to pick up a physical edition of Undertale from Best Buy. I've heard so much good stuff about this game, but I never played it. Playing games on my laptop wasn't exactly an ideal experience, and Undertale hadn't released on any consoles I owned yet. I'm also a bit of a snob about getting physical games, so here I was. I bought the game, then drove back home to play it. I had been spoiled on some of its mechanics through a game theory video on Undertale, but I was still excited to play it regardless. I think Undertale is one of the greatest games ever made. Every element of it drips with care and quality. It intertwines its story with its gameplay so well that you couldn't tell its story outside of the medium of video games. When turn-based combat was like kryptonite to me, Undertale made it fun and engaging. In a time where I didn't understand the appeal of listening to video game music, Undertale had me putting its soundtrack on my playlist. In a time where I thought gameplay was the only important thing in a game, I was shedding tears of both joy and sadness over characters and a story. It felt great to have a game that could engage me through not only gameplay, but through characters and a story as well. I realized that just because an element of a game isn't gameplay doesn't mean that it's unnecessary fluff. It can be engaging in a whole other way, and can even be more engaging in some instances. As long as it's a story that could only be told through gameplay. It's November 5th, 2020, and Trump just made that infamous tweet. Parroted every Trump supporter for the next few months. Trump sent out many similar tweets trying to blame his loss on voter fraud, the Democrats' lies, or people who couldn't count right. Because there's no way that he could have lost, not after how great he made America. This was the point that I started regretting my vote a little bit, because I'm ashamed to admit, but I did vote for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. Like, if you think something's genuinely amiss with the election, then you can fund a recount the same way Hillary did when you were elected. By yelling about it on Twitter, you're just getting your supporters riled up, and they'll most likely do something stupid and dangerous if you don't stop. Huh. It's January 18th, 2020. Snowman Gaming just uploaded a new episode of Good Game Design on a game I haven't heard of before. Outer Wilds. He talks about the game for just a minute before saying the game is best experienced blind. I had learned my lesson from Undertale and decided that I needed to avoid all information about this game until I could play it. After that, I kinda forgot about it. Like, it just kind of floated out of my mind as I saw it was coming soon to Steam, and I guess I didn't realize it was already on Epic Games Store, or that Epic Games Store even existed. I also didn't have a computer that could run it anyway, so I just forgot. But after a few months rolled by, I'm reminded of it again by a college buddy. He convinced me and a couple others to drop a few bucks and buy it so we could play through it. And at this point, it had released on PS4, so we were all able to play through it together, all going to that first friend whenever we needed help. It's one of my favorite memories from the pandemic, because it taught me that you don't always have to be physically together with people to come closer as friends. As far as the game itself though, oh my god. You're going to space and you get slapped with one hell of a hook, then you just get to go and figure it out. And you learn about the story through all these little dialogue pieces you find, and the mysteries and the puzzles are so difficult to figure out, but then you feel dumb afterwards for not realizing it all along. It's so good. I'm inevitably gonna make a video about it, so I don't want to focus too hard on it right now, but this game combines story with gameplay even better than Undertale did. But like in a completely different way, in a way I didn't even realize was possible. And it's something that I love it for. I beat it on September 9th, 2020, and I'll never forget it. Outer Wilds made me do a severe reevaluation of everything I thought I knew about myself when it came to video games. And I came out the other side more sure of myself and my interests. I didn't come out the other side only liking story games like Telltale or Life is Strange. But I did end it by being able to enjoy those types of games without feeling the pressure of liking fake games. I could confidently just like what I liked, without worrying about how others viewed those games. It's January 6th, 2021. That day. Trump is still claiming that the election was stolen from him. By around 11 a.m., Trump supporters have surrounded the White House. At noon, Trump starts giving his Save America speech, where he continues to falsely claim that the election was stolen from him by Democrats, voter fraud, and a rigged election.
Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you, I will tell you right now.
This sounds closer to a threat than I like. There's a little thing we like to say in the Smash Bros. Competitive community when people like this just can't accept their loss.
Please, no Johns.
It's 1 p.m., and people have started trying to break the outer barricade around the White House. It's 1:05 p.m. Pence declares Joe Biden the winner. It's 1:10 p.m. Trump ends his Save America speech by saying,
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol. We're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country.
What the fuck? It's 1:30 p.m., and the first protesters overtake the Capitol Police and begin making their way up to the White House steps. It's 2:15 p.m. The full-on mob has breached the U.S. Capitol. It's 2:20 p.m. Congress adjourns as members try to evacuate before the rioters can reach them. It's 2:24 p.m. Despite everything that's happened in the past hour, Trump tweets out a message saying that Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country. It's 2:38 p.m. Apparently, Trump realizes how bad this tweet and everything else he's done is going to make him look, and tries to cover it up with a quick message saying, "Support our Capitol Police, they're on the side of our country." But it's way too little, way too late. It's 3:15 p.m. Ashley Babbitt has been shot by Capitol Police. It's 3:36 p.m. The National Guard and federal forces are headed towards the U.S. Capitol. It's 4:05 p.m. Biden calls upon Trump to denounce the conflict and, quote, demand an end to this siege, unquote. It's 4:17 p.m. Trump tweets a video that starts with yet another false claim that the election was stolen from him. He tells the rioters to go home, and that he loves them. It's 6 p.m. DC curfew takes effect. It's over. It's 6:01 p.m. Trump tweets out that his victory was a, quote, sacred landslide, unquote, and that it was, quote, viciously stripped away from him, unquote. Shortly after that, Facebook and Twitter removed all Trump's posts made that day. 2 days later, Twitter permanently banned Trump's account. I remember talking to my parents about this the next day. Now, as much as they may have appreciated Trump during the majority of his presidency, obviously this was a step too far and was something we could completely agree on, that the blame for this event fell squarely on Trump's shoulders. Well, as you can probably tell from my tone, they didn't. Even Trump's video statement where he told the protesters that they were in the right and that he loved them. They just laughed it off like, that's just Trump being Trump. Looking back, I think their view on the Capitol raid was that it was a wrong thing for the right reason. Which, no, not at all. But I think that that's why they were able to brush it off so easily. After this, it was clear to me that Trump not only had no care for immigrants and people outside of the US, he had no care about the American people, or the very institutions that put him into power in the first place. He cares about himself, and getting what he wants. And when he doesn't get it, he's gonna cry like a little toddler until he does. I realized that this wasn't really news to most, but it was a wake-up call for me. This event was unignorable. The Capitol raid made me do a severe reevaluation of everything I thought I knew about myself when it comes to our world. And I came out the other side more sure of myself and what I believed. I didn't come out the other side thinking that every liberal policy was perfect and every conservative one was selfish, but I did end it by being able to think for myself. Being able to look at an issue and determine for myself what I think is right, both through research and my own moral compass. I could confidently believe in what's right, rather than worry about how my friends or family thought about my beliefs.
Do I just need an easy way to get an emotional reaction? And this was the easiest fucking thing. And even if it's not, is the perception that it is that, is it still worth putting this stuff in there? If some hypothetical person comes and watches this and is like, wow, that piece of shit, he just put all this January 6th stuff in to make people sad. Is it worth removing all of this just so that hypothetical person doesn't do that? I don't know. But I've been jumping back and forth between literally gutting half of this video or not.
It's October 16th, 2020. I've just 100% completed Super Mario Galaxy. Nintendo released the Mario 3D All-Stars collection a month ago, and I've been working my way through Sunshine and Galaxy from then until now. I remember hearing people talk about how this game kinda sucked 100%, with the purple coin missions and the trash cleanup being standout examples, and I just kinda accepted that. I remembered having a tough time with the trash cleanup mission when I first played it, and even though I never tried the purple coin missions, I figured that if they were right about the trash cleanup, then they were probably right about the other missions too. But that wasn't right. Mario Galaxy is a joy to complete. Now that I have a little more experience, even the trash cleanup was fun. It's not too difficult really at all. I can't really think of any mission that wasn't fun, if a bit challenging, looking at you, Daredevil comments. And to top it all off is this freaking sound design. I mean, listen to these sound effects. But the sound effects are nothing compared to this music. The first real level you get into, you've got Good Egg Galaxy playing. Then you've got Gusty Garden Galaxy music just a little bit later. And oh my gosh, space junk. And how could I forget? The first planet you visit? Like these last two songs especially, they're able to capture this feeling of marveling at the beauty of the universe, but at the same time feeling lonely and isolated in it. One galaxy that I really love is Big Mouth Galaxy. It's simple, but I love seeing this guy way out here in the middle of space just living the life that he loves. Fishing in the quiet with no one to interrupt him. Except you now, I guess. But then when you descend into the water, the music gets eerie and there's almost like a horror vibe to it. There's nothing actually scary down here, but it gives you a feeling of unease as you're looking for the star pieces. But then you re-emerge gold shell in hand and it's back to the peaceful, quiet life. Like I said, simple, but that's why I love it. And simple moments like this are all over Galaxy. I may have deemed it as unnecessary fluff as a kid, but Rosalina's storybook is a sight to behold. It's another simple story, maybe a bit more in depth than The Fishing Penguin, but it is still a simple story. And I think that's why it's so effective. And while the storybook is beautiful on its own, metatextually, it was put there despite Miyamoto's wishes. It's emblematic of a new generation of game makers letting their creative spirit out, refusing to be held down by the current established norm. And if that sounds overdramatic, have you read Rosalina's storybook? This story is the type of thing I'd expect out of like a niche indie game whose whole focus is this story, not some side content in a Mario game. And God, that atmosphere. Learning the emptiness of space firsthand, while amazing in itself, also really sells Rosalina's storybook that much more. You know how empty space is. Now think about how scary that would be for a kid. And we all know this feeling as well. We've all been left in a grocery store or a fast food place by accident as a kid, scared that mom and dad won't ever be back for us. This is like that, but on a cosmic scale. But Rosalina's parents aren't gonna be back. Her mom's still sleeping under the tree. The story is both nostalgic and heartbreaking. And all this love and care is put into a completely optional event. And that's why I love Galaxy. Not to say I don't still love Galaxy 2. It's beautiful in a whole different way than 1. Its art style is full of bright colors, beautiful forests and flowers, and blue skies all around. 2 has more fun power-ups and great level design, and the gameplay is much more streamlined. The whole tone of the game is just happy and playful. Like, listen to this music. It's so upbeat and just makes me ready to play some Mario. But ultimately, I can get that in every Mario game. Galaxy 1 has a tone and an atmosphere that's unlikely to ever return. And that's what makes it so special, and it's why it's my favorite. Well, now it's August 15th, 2022. My 21st birthday. I'm not the same person I was in 2018, and I hope that's obvious. I've gone through some pretty radical changes since then. I feel free. Free to like what I like without worrying about others. Like, man, I watch anime now, because despite how some of my friends make fun of me, there's a lot of beautiful animation and artful storytelling to be seen. I play walking simulators now because despite how some of my friends make fun of me, there's a real art to making a good one, and gameplay isn't everything. My political beliefs are mostly liberal now because despite how some of my friends make fun of me, the lives of people are more important than the profits of billionaires. And more important than forcing your own morals onto others. Something I struggled with a lot during the making of this script was whether to keep the political stuff in here or not. The main reason for that was it felt wrong to try and relate a tragic event like the Capitol raid to something like enjoying Mario Galaxy 1 more than 2. But every time I tried to remove it, there was just something missing. And I think I figured out what that is. This video is about maturity, and that maturity manifested in a few ways. Sure, it allowed me to just start liking what media I liked without caring about others, but more importantly, being able to humble myself was a huge part of that maturing experience. And being able to admit that I was wrong about nearly everything I've believed my entire life was a pretty humbling experience. And the script lost that when limiting it to only talking about video games. Just about everything I used to believe has changed. I do my best not to form my opinions and get my information through osmosis of conversations with others. Rather, I do my due diligence now, whether that's through researching stuff first, trying to hear another's perspective, or even just playing through a video game myself. I do this so that I can have a well-informed opinion about whatever I talk about. I don't want to just pretend I know something or fake my way through a conversation anymore. I'm not perfect. I'm sure that I have a lot more I need to learn. I'm only 21 after all. One more year and I should have everything figured out. But ultimately, I'm happy with the direction that I'm headed. And I like to think I'm a much more compassionate and thoughtful person than I was a few years ago. Through all of this, I've learned how to grow and how to learn. And I don't plan to ever be finished doing that. Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching the video all the way to the end. Or if you fast forwarded here, thank you for fast forwarding to the end. And I hope you enjoyed the video. This was probably one of the most difficult videos I've had to write so far. I wrote so much stuff that I just ended up throwing away. And I went back and forth a lot on how in-depth I should go on certain things, and it was a lot of editing. A lot of script editing. But I think that I'm happy with how it turned out in the end. This is my favorite video I've made yet. I can't wait for 2 weeks from now when I hate it with all of my guts. Oh, almost forgot. I've got sources for pretty much everything that I talked about down in the description below. Probably be near the bottom of it, because, there's more important things than, facts. By the way, you smell really good today. Did anyone tell you that? Like, did you just shower? You wearing cologne, you son of a gun. Whatever the case, you smell great. Alright, love you. See you guys later.